Konbanwa. Welcome to Webinar 9, How to Story Ask TPRS Style. What I really hope for in this webinar is that you will go away with a greater understanding of the numerous benefits of using TPRS in your classes, and also to gain some confidence or a bit of an overview of how to implement a TPRS story in your classes. Perhaps it's your very first TPRS story. Maybe this is all new to you. So at the end of this, I really hope that you have some clarity about what it is and all of the benefits and how to do it. So let's make a start. What is it? So TPRS stands for Teaching Proficiency through Reading and Storytelling. Blaine Ray is the creator of TPRS method, and I was really fortunate several years ago to experience his demo as a student in one of his demo classes. And this is when, because I'd experienced it myself as a student, this is when I realised the power of TPRS and the power of the learner who is actively being involved in the language exchange and the ownership that I felt with the language that we were using. So TPRS is teacher directed but student centered. And what that means is that the teacher is providing the input, making sure that it is very comprehensible, asking questions, asking for suggestions to add to the story, but the details and the flow of the story is decided by the students. The students and their interests are at the centre of the lesson, but the teacher ensures that the class is receiving the input that is comprehended by the students. The input must be comprehended for the students to acquire the language. So what I experienced as a student in Blaine's class and what I saw in my own Japanese classes was real connection and improved relationship, both student to student and the students with myself. We were building this story together. I was asking for their ideas. It followed their interests. They had a say in what was happening in the story, and we had a lot of fun, lots of laughs along the way. We could be a bit silly and have a joke. It was a really freeing experience for me, and something that had been missing in my teaching up until that point. So TPRS really facilitates language acquisition because the students are so into this story, their story, that they forget that the story is in Japanese and that they're understanding it. And when you experience that, it's really powerful when you can see the students swept away with the story. And TPRS also meets the psychological needs of autonomy, competence, and relatedness. They have autonomy because they have a say in what happens in their story, competence because they feel success because they can understand the story, and this can be done from day one. And relatedness because the whole class is working collaboratively to co-create a really compelling story. In addition, and I'll credit Bryce Hedstrom with this, he has some fantastic resources for story asking and TPRS. TPRS is really fabulous also because it's personalised and adaptable to your class. It's not a canned program, one size fits all. And additionally, it's not dependent on technology. You really just need a whiteboard and a marker. So technology, of course, can enhance it, but, you know, you don't need all the bells and whistles to distract from essentially really good teaching practice. So good teaching based on modern research-backed methods must be behind all of these other gadgets. Just because it's cool doesn't mean it's useful. And it's not high prep either. A TPRS story you can teach in the target language for an hour with just 3 new words or structures. It provides quality repetitions. The important structures of the language can be repeated over and over in an interesting context. So we have a beautiful spiral of recycling and reusing the language. And this doesn't get old because we're not focusing on the language, but on the content. So TPRS provides a way to stay in the target language for 90% of the class from day one, and it provides a structured way to do so. And super importantly, it sends your students a subliminal message that Japanese is the primary mode of communication in the class. So I'm recommending this book by Karen Lichtman. She is a lecturer of Spanish and linguistics and a research professor. I really love how user-friendly and easy to digest her writing is. So these were the results of over 20 studies comparing TPRS to other teaching methods such as audiolingual method, grammar translation, communicative language teaching. The most common competitor is traditional style teaching, which has been characterised by it being a grammar-based syllabus, demands for student output, grammatical accuracy, and teaching often a large set of thematically organised vocab. So as you can see there, 2 out of 3 of these studies found, 2/3 of the studies, those 20 odd studies, found the benefits of TPRS with no disadvantage whatsoever. The remaining 1/3 showed mixed results, so there was no real clarity with that third. When it was broken down, the results of the comparative studies, this is a quote from her book, TPRS shows the clearest advantages for the acquisition of vocabulary and grammar, as well as development of reading and speaking skills. TPRS classes get more language and more skill faster than traditional classes. So with this current research, TPRS is well and truly backed, and I would hope that this is encouraging for more teachers to try it in their classes. So who is it for? Any level. The beauty of TPRS is that you can provide as much scaffolding as your class cohort needs. You can extend the details depending on students. I have used it with years 5 and 6s through to year 10. A fabulous Spanish teacher, Jason Fritz, has some YouTube demos of his young primary school students. He has big classes and short lessons, and his students are comprehending and producing so much language. He's fantastic to watch. So before you start, I would recommend giving the students a short explanation, something like, I wanted to try out a new way to learn Japanese with you. It's easy and fun, but it does have some rules for you and for me. So the rules are the things that the teacher needs to follow and the class needs to follow. So let's have a look at those. You might say, we're going to create our own story together. We want it to be a really, really interesting story. And to do that, we all need to do the following. So we need to do our 50%. What that means is I will do my 50% and meet my rules, and you need to do your 50%. So what your 50% looks like is that you have to listen to get meaning of the story. You must follow along. You need to show me that you get it. It can be just like this, or responding to questions that I'm asking if you're able to. But if you're understanding, you can do thumbs up. And likewise, if you don't get it, if you don't understand, you can show me that too. So that might be, I need time out, or please repeat. And also to have fun with it. So this isn't designed to stress the students out. This is designed for us all to have a little bit of fun, to create something new and novel that interests us, interests the students. So if we all do our 50%, we will have a great story that we can easily understand in Japanese, and that's pretty cool. So once the students know their rules and expectations, I also explain to my students that we understand more than we can say. So, and that's normal. My 50% means that I will make sure everyone understands the story. If someone doesn't understand it, it's either one, I'm not doing my 50%. I'm going too fast. I'm not making the meaning clear. I'm not doing enough gestures. I'm not pointing and pausing. Or the other option is that you're not getting it. The second option is that you are not doing your 50%, i.e. you're not following the class discussions or not stopping me when you're unsure. So it does put the ownership back on the student. There's that expectation, and I've found that keeping that expectation high and clear has helped a lot. So with the TPRS story, we speak in our case, Japanese, at least 90% of the time, but with understandable language. So as the teacher, I really need to shelter the vocab or stay in bounds. We're using language that the students can understand either with a gesture or with pointing and pausing. What that means is pointing to the word that you have up on the targeted language that you've got up on the board, or the question words, so that you're giving processing time to each of the students. So pointing as you're asking the questions, staying in Japanese the whole time. Pointing and pausing is a really, really effective communication technique, CI technique. Also, regularly asking processing questions to check for comprehension. So that might be asking in Japanese what inu desu ka? Inu sore tomo neko desu ka? Depending on what the story is. It could be a quick, what did I say tell me what I said in English. It could be something like that. Turn to your partner and say what's happening in the story so far in English. So a really quick comprehension check. And perhaps the most important thing is to go slow. And this is something that I'm constantly working on, because sometimes in the excitement of things, I can speed up and speak too fast and I lose students that way. So if the students don't understand, it's not comprehensible input. So we check constantly for understanding hundreds of times per class. Well, maybe not that many, many times through the class. And the way that we check for that is we check for reaction times. We check by looking at the students' eyes, asking general questions to the class, asking individual students questions, asking questions about content in Japanese, and as I said, occasionally asking for comprehension responses in English. So they're the teachers' expectations there. That's what we need to ensure. So down to the nuts and bolts, how to story ask. So there are 3 parts to TPRS. Number 1, we establish meaning. Number 2, we ask a story. And number 3, we read that story with our class. So the story is known content. So to have a look at this, we establish meaning first up. So we might pick 3 grammatical structures, and we establish meaning with written translations for the gestures and gestures for a few minutes. And it's not a listen and repeat type drill. Students are showing that they understand, showing their understanding with the gestures. So if let's see, I'm going to jump into that. There we go. So you choose your language structures or chunks. So no more than 3. In this case, we'll use des ga imasu ni ikimasu. And the question words that I have up all the time in every lesson, either on posters or displayed as a word wall on my computer, dare, nan, nani, doko, and ka. So establishing meaning could be the gestures. For example, dare. We do this for all stories and for all interactions so the students know dare. Sometimes the students will do a call and response, hoo, hoo. I might say dare, hoo, hoo. So they pick that one up super quick. Nan, nani, doko, and ka. For the 3 super 7 verbs, des, ga imasu, and ni ikimasu. So we establish meaning of those. I would write these like this on the board with the Romaji pronunciation and the English translation. So in doing that, rather than using script, for the oral input, when we're doing all the communicating and oral work, I want the students to be able to process as quickly as possible. So if they have to decode the hiragana while we're talking and interacting, that slows down the processing time. There's a time and a place for that, but for the oral input, we use Romaji, particularly for the beginners. Your older students who have a strong grasp on the scripts may be able to not need that Romaji scaffold there. So we choose our language chunks. We've got those. We've established meaning. Then we ask a story. So the classic TPRS story script, all you need is a character, an object, and 3 locations. So location 1, there is a character, but there is a problem because the character wants an object, a thing, something. So the character goes to location 2. In location 2, the object is not there. The character is sad or disappointed, frustrated, angry, upset, depending on the class vocabulary depth. So the character goes to location 3. In location 3, the object is there, yay! And the character has the object now, and the character is happy. So that's your classic TPRS script. And again, for super beginners, we would keep it very, very simple and straightforward. With the older classes or more advanced, you level up by adding more detail to the character, to the object, to the emotions. So it's very easy to scaffold this up and down. I know a teacher who had 5 different levels, and she'd use one story, and she would be able to scaffold that one story and provide suitable input that was comprehensible for each of those levels. But it helped to minimise her planning time because it was building on from the previous. Okay, so now we've done that one. So let's have a go. So with the character, the first thing that you would do, depending on your class and their language level, you can ask the class for suggestions, and remembering too that you stay in bounds. Less is definitely more. I've learned that the hard way. So it is far better for students to know a small number of super high frequency and very super high frequency verbs really, really well. That foundation is really set. They need to have mastery of that. So rock solid understanding of those core verbs. So yes, less is definitely more. So the character, now depending on your cohort of students, you can add more details. For example, name, age, emotion, happy, sad, whatever. Does the character have a pet? What is the pet? Is the pet happy or sad? And what is the problem? What don't they have that they want? What is it they don't have? So location 2, where do they go? Who is there? So I'll just go back. So in this case, it could be oops. Sorry, I think I've just lost one. Hold on. There we go. I'll just go back and go through this a little bit more. So the teacher might say, you might say, Dare ga imasu ka? And again, I'm pointing and pausing to make sure that the students know what I'm saying. Dare ga imasu ka? Onna no ko ga imasu ka? Otoko no ko ga imasu ka? You call for some response. We could do a vote. ultimately, though, it's your call. So you make that decision in the end. So you can ask for some suggestions and then pick. And it's a nice way to make some more connections and perhaps pick the choice of a student that maybe needs a bit of a boost, maybe has low self-esteem in Japanese. You might give them the two choices, onna noko, soretomo otoko noko, and get them to choose. So they're, feeling the love there. Then add more details. Namae wa nan desu ka? And again, you're asking for input from the students. Ureshii desu ka? Ureshikunai desu ka? Once you've got their name, Patty. Patty wa ureshikunai desu. Patty wa pet ga imasu ka? So you're asking for more information there. Pet ga imasu. Demo, but demo, unicorn. Again, you're getting those key details from the students. Nani ga hoshii desu ka? What does he want? Nani ga hoshii desu ka? Pet ga imasu. Demo, monkey ga imasen. Ureshikunai desu. Then they move to the next location. Doko ni ikimasu ka? Patty-san wa doko ni ikimasu ka? Jenny-san, Patty-san wa doko ni ikimasu ka? Spain ni ikimasu. Tabun. So I'll say maybe, and I want more input from more students. Spain ni ikimasu ka? Doko ni ikimasu ka? Asking for more suggestions. Finally, you decide on which one it is. Hollywood. Hollywood ni ikimasu. はい、そうですね。パディさんはホリウッドに行きます。ホリウッドに誰がいますか? So who's there? Who's there asking for more people? Lady Gaga がいます。そうですね。Lady Gaga がいます。そして、Elvis がいます。そして、and then you're asking for more and more. Once they're at location 1, you're asking, do they have that, whatever it is that they want? So if it was the purple unicorn or their monkey, I think we said monkey, didn't we? So, 猿がいますか? いいえ。Hollywood に、Lady Gaga がいます。でも、猿がいません。パディさんは嬉しくないです。So move on to the next location and we rinse and repeat. Do comprehension checks to make sure that you haven't lost anyone along the way. And location 3, same again, rinse and repeat. But here is where the problem is solved. Yay! The character is happy. They have the monkey or the unicorn, whatever it is, and they're happy. So once we've created the story, we bring in some student actors. Choose your actors carefully. They must follow your lead, but it's a great opportunity to get more input, to go over the story and the language again. And you can ask for clarification. Dare deshita ka? Harry-san desu ka? Yeah, and then they will call out, Patty des. そうですね、Pattyさん。Patty さんは嬉しいですか? And so you're asking for those clarification questions and whether they've understood the story. So even with one word, we can determine their comprehension level. If they're understanding the questions that we're asking, even with one word answers. And then after we've done created the story, we've read the story, we've created the story, we act out the story, and then we finally read. As a class, we can write out the story together using another CI technique called Write and Discuss, but this warrants another webinar. So we will do that in the not so distant future. And then after we've written our story together, we then read cold character style. And this again is warrants a whole webinar on this reading technique, which is brilliant. And just finally, some final words from Bryce Hedgstrom, which I think is really important to keep in mind when you're thinking about doing TPRS and whether it's worth trialling it. So the students, want to pay attention because the content is engaging. The students keep paying attention because they can understand, and they are invested in the story because they help to create it. So as always, if you have any questions about TPRS, or if you'd like some extra help or clarification or resources to help trial this approach in your classes, I'd love to help. So please contact me via the JapanEasyReads community or via email. And till next week, I hope you have a great week, and we'll see you then. Next week is all about cold character reading. So I'm looking forward to that. All right. Thanks, everybody.